Hey everyone, I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Dan, and until recently, I thought I had a normal, happy life. My wife, Sarah, and I had been married for 10 years. We have two kids, Evan, who's 9, and Lily, who's 6. Sarah was always the quiet type, not someone who craved the spotlight or big adventures. She was content staying home, scrolling through social media, watching cute animal videos, and occasionally indulging in some online shopping for clothes and gadgets we probably didn't need. I used to tease her about how much time she spent on her phone. How many kitten videos does one person need to see in a day? I'd joke. She'd laugh it off, saying it was her way of unwinding, and honestly, I didn't think much of it. We had our routines, our inside jokes, and our family traditions. Life wasn't perfect, but it was comfortable. Looking back, maybe I was too comfortable. Over the past year, I started noticing small changes in Sarah. She was glued to her phone more than ever, even during family dinners. She'd laugh at messages I wasn't part of, quickly locking the screen whenever I got close. When I asked her what she was up to, she'd shrug and say, "Just looking at funny stuff." She also started dressing differently, nicer, more stylish, even when she wasn't going anywhere. I told myself it was harmless, that maybe she was just trying to feel good about herself. But the late nights began to bother me. I'd go to bed, and she'd stay up in the living room, scrolling through her phone until the early hours. When I brought it up, she got defensive. "You're overthinking it, Dan," she'd say. "I'm just chatting with friends and relaxing. Don't make it a big deal." I wanted to believe her, so I dropped it. But deep down, something didn't feel right. Then, one evening, she dropped the bombshell. The kids were at school, and I was home early from work. She came into the kitchen, her face pale and serious. "I need to talk to you," she said, avoiding my eyes. "What's going on?" I asked, feeling a lump form in my throat. She took a deep breath. "I've met someone." I stared at her, not understanding. "What do you mean, met someone?" "Online," she said, her voice trembling. "We've been talking for a while and I think I need to see where this goes." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're leaving? For someone you've never even met in person?" "He's different," she said, tears streaming down her face. "He understands me in a way you never did. He's kind, funny, and he makes me feel alive." "Sarah, we have a family," I said, my voice breaking. "What about Evan and Lily? What about us?" She looked at me, her expression filled with guilt but also determination. "I'm sorry, Dan. I need to do this for myself." And just like that, she packed a bag and walked out the door. When Sarah left, I was stunned. One day, she was my wife, the mother of my kids, sitting at the dinner table scrolling through cat videos. The next, she was gone, chasing some fantasy with a man she'd never even met in person. The kids were confused, asking where Mommy had gone. I told them she was taking some time to think about things. It felt like a weak excuse, but what else could I say? Days turned into weeks, and I didn't hear much from Sarah. Occasionally, she'd text to check on the kids, but her messages were brief, distant. I tried to focus on holding things together for Evan and Lily, school drop-offs, bedtime stories, meals. But every night, when the house was quiet, the reality of what had happened hit me all over again. I couldn't understand how she'd thrown everything away for someone she'd only known through a screen. Then, about 3 weeks after she left, I got a call. It was Sarah, and her voice was shaky. "Dan," she said, "can I come over? I need to talk to you." She showed up that evening, standing on the doorstep with a small suitcase and tears in her eyes. She looked different, tired, almost broken. "Can I come in?" she asked. I let her in, still in shock. She sat at the kitchen table, staring at her hands. Finally, she spoke. "I made a mistake." "What happened, Sarah?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She took a deep breath. "When I got to him, everything was different. He wasn't who I thought he was. He lied about almost everything: his job, his family, even his name. The kindness, the understanding, the connection I thought we had, it was all fake. He just wanted someone to use. Her words hit me like a gut punch. Part of me felt vindicated. This was exactly what I'd feared. But another part of me felt sad for her. She'd been duped, manipulated into believing a fantasy that had no basis in reality. "I'm so sorry, Dan," she said, her voice breaking. "I never should have left. I was selfish, and I hurt you and the kids. I thought I was chasing something better, but all I found was emptiness. I don't deserve it, but I'm asking, no, begging, you to give me another chance." I sat there, staring at her, my emotions swirling. Anger, betrayal, sadness, and, somewhere deep down, a flicker of the love I'd once felt for her. But could I trust her again? Could I let her back into our lives after what she'd done? "What about the kids, Sarah?" I asked, my voice trembling. "They don't understand why you left. They've been asking about you every day." "I'll do whatever it takes to make it up to them," she said, tears streaming down her face. "And to you. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to come home. I want to be a family again." After Sarah's tearful plea, I couldn't sleep. I stayed up all night, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. Part of me wanted to tell her to leave and never come back. She'd abandoned us, chased a fantasy, and left me to pick up the pieces. But another part of me, the part that still remembered the woman I married, the mother of my kids, wondered if I owed it to her, to us, to at least try. The next morning, I told her I needed time to think. She nodded, looking defeated but understanding. "I'll stay at my sister's," she said quietly. "Take all the time you need." Over the next few days, I wrestled with my emotions. I thought about the life we'd built together, the good times and the bad. I thought about the kids and how much they missed her. And I thought about the man she'd left us for, the lies she'd believed, and the choice she made to walk out on her family. I talked to a few close friends, hoping they'd have the answers. Most of them told me to move on, that I deserved better. But my mom, who'd been through her own share of marital struggles, said something that stuck with me. "Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, Dan. It means deciding what kind of future you want for yourself and your kids." One night, as I was tucking Evan and Lily into bed, Evan asked, "Is Mommy ever coming back?" His question broke me. I sat down on the edge of his bed, struggling to find the right words. "Mommy made a mistake," I said finally. "But she loves you and Lily very much. She wants to come back and be part of our family again." "Are you going to let her?" he asked, his big innocent eyes looking up at me. "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But whatever happens, we're going to be okay." After a week of soul-searching, I finally called Sarah. She came over that evening, looking nervous but hopeful. We sat down in the living room, and I told her everything I'd been feeling: the anger, the hurt, the betrayal, and the fear that she might do it again. "I'm willing to try," I said finally, "for the kids, for us. But this isn't going to be easy, Sarah. You have to earn back my trust, and it's going to take time. Are you ready for that?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "I'll do whatever it takes, Dan. I swear." Sarah moved back in a few days later, and the transition was rocky. The kids were thrilled to have her back, but for me, it was harder. Every time she looked at her phone, I felt a pang of anxiety. Every time she left the house, I wondered if she'd come back. We started going to couples therapy, and slowly, painfully, we began to rebuild. I'd be lying if I said things went back to normal. There were days when I wanted to walk away, when the weight of what she'd done felt too heavy to bear. But there were also days when I saw glimpses of the woman I'd fallen in love with, and those moments kept me going. Looking back, I've learned that love isn't always enough to save a marriage. It takes trust, commitment, and a willingness to fight for each other, even when things get hard. Sarah's betrayal nearly destroyed us, but it also forced us to confront the cracks in our relationship that we'd been ignoring for years. To anyone reading this, my advice is simple. Don't ignore the warning signs. If something feels off, talk about it. And if you find yourself in a situation like mine, take the time to really think about what you want and what you're willing to forgive. It's not an easy road, but sometimes the hardest paths lead to the strongest places. As for us, we're still figuring things out. Some days are better than others, but for now, we're trying. And maybe, for a family, that's enough. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you have taken her back, or would you have walked away? I'd love to hear your thoughts.